We are talking about the policy of Britain and America to depopulate the third world by putting sterilant in water and in staple foods as well as other methods. Well, the depopulation is driven by a policy which concerns national interests of the West, the raw materials of the third world, especially gold, silver, and oil. And also, we can never fail to mention the famous Dr. Henry Kissinger National Security Study Memorandum 200, which stated this policy of depopulation that was accepted under President Gerald Ford and was introduced again under President Jimmy Carter. And unfortunately, it's the policy today towards the third world. Well, we also mentioned that this depopulation policy was being implemented not only in the United States of America today through abortions and toxic poisons being added to water supplies, and it's also being introduced to developed nations of the West as well. So what is policy? Policy is a definite course of action adopted for the sake of expediency, or it is a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, or it's an action or procedure conforming to or considered with reference to prudence or expedience. Having said that, then, generally speaking, this means that any decision made by a government and how it acts is considered to be government policy. We then can understand that this depopulation memorandum that Dr. Kissinger introduced became the policy of the West, and unfortunately is the policy of the West. It's the policy of the United States Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense, Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, and also the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. In terms of how this wicked policy of depopulation has affected Africa, when you visit Zimbabwe, you'll discover that HIV and AIDS pandemic was killing 20,000 Zimbabweans a week, and the biggest business in Harare was the making of coffins. Unfortunately, it's only black people who are dying in numbers in this area, and not the whites. So now, what do? They have always been coming and introducing vaccines. But the question is, are these vaccines really good for us? I grieve over the widespread death due to poisons, not unintentionally, but intentionally put in vaccines to limit the population of black people in our world today. Nobody even cares to look at what kind of chemicals are used in those vaccines. As long as they say it's a vaccine and it's going to cure this, we run for it. Killing of tens of hundreds of thousands of people in third world nations, because those nations trust scholars and scientists of the Western world, white people who claim to want to help them. While there are many white people who are sincere, they are fronts that are used to open the door for the insincere satanic mind to enter and practice evil and acclaimed noble mission. So the enemy hasn't changed. You remember the so-called General Jeffrey Amherst of the United States Army in 1763, who put smallpox in blankets and went to the Indians claiming that the blankets would help them, comfort them during the winter. The Indians ended up suffering from smallpox as a result of that. There were also the fact that they were injected with the most virulent form of syphilis during the Tuskegee experiments from 1932 to 1974. That is 40 years. Allowing them to cohabit with each other to spread the disease. And all they got when it was discovered was just an apology. Well, Cuba has some of the cleanest vaccines found in the world. But the embargo on Cuba disallowed her to produce what is desired for the well-being of the people. It's only the late Muammar Gaddafi who agreed to do this. Then he opened up a $5 million hospital in Tripoli. What followed? The West started fighting him, and because they have a plan for chemical and biological welfare outlined in their congressional hearings. In 1998, if I recall very well, a Palestinian medical intern, along with 5 Bulgarian nurses, was found guilty by a Libyan court for intentionally infecting some 400 Libyan children with HIV and AIDS. The United States, the European Union, they really petitioned for the Libyan government to have them released, even after they were convicted. Finally, they were released, extradited to their country so that they could serve time in their own home country. And when they arrived, the Bulgarian president, Georgi Parvanov, commuted their sentences and freed the 6. Well, when you look at the biological pandemic AIDS, it has an oblique, ominous, and a questionable history. When we consider in June 9, 1969, a subcommittee of the Committee of Appropriations of the House of Representatives hearing, well, it was in a testimony which contained writings by Dr. Donald M. MacArthur of the Army Advanced Research Project Agency, who testified on chemical and biological warfare as follows. There are 2 things about the biological field agent he said he would mention. One is the possibility of a technical surprise, molecular biology, in a field that is advancing very rapidly and eminent. Biologists believe that within a period of 5 to 10 years, it would be possible to produce a synthetic biological agent, an agent that does not naturally exist and for which no natural immunity could have been acquired. So, what is AIDS? AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Dr. MacArthur later added that it was possible to make a new infective microorganism that would be refractory to immunological and therapeutic processes upon which we depend to maintain our relative freedom from infectious diseases. What is refractory? It is an adjective that means 1, uncontrollable, stubborn, rebellious. 2, heat resistant. The report also deduced it is a highly controversial issue and there are many who